Okay, so welcome everybody. I know we're in the process of changing panels and there's people coming and going, but I have been really looking forward to this panel. I think we have the best question to answer, and I think we have the right people to answer that question. So very pleased to be joined by you. I think we're going to hear from, clearly how, this government is really pushing forward, and now you, Nicodemos, for some time now, even before you took on your current role, you have been actively involved in pushing innovation in technology in your previous roles, and I followed through your career so far. I know, how you've been successful migrating from being an innovator, supporting those innovators, now investing in those. Mihaly, I think you are a local serial entrepreneur, very successful one. And again, it's good to hear from those that have been homegrown and how they were able to sort of reach their first successes and how they look forward to their future success. And then Eli, I think you're going to bring us a huge amount of wealth of how we compare, what are the steps that we need to take to get to where we want to be. I think the exam question here is, can Cyprus be a startup nation? And what are the foundations that we need to lay to be there? I will complete my intro by saying that I think the foundations have been laid already. And I think our desire and hunger is to go beyond just one level up. I think we need a multi-story building, and that's what everybody's asking for. The investors, the entrepreneurs themselves, the whole ecosystem represented by the government, and of course, those that choose to make Cyprus their home also, as you have Eli to sort of facilitate that progress of the ecosystem. So let's see what it is we need to do to get to that multi-story building of a startup nation. Could I start with you, Nicodemos? Could I ask you, a number of policies have been already undertaken by the government to promote, even in the last couple of years more so. What would you say is the key developments that have really contributed or fueling this growth?
Okay, good morning everyone. Again, thank you Vassos. It is indeed a very diversified panel. Thank you for bringing us together. I also look forward to listening to what you have to say, everyone. It's important for us. I'm going to start by saying that our president in the morning, in his opening remarks, pinpointed the fact that the government cannot do it alone. Okay, we need the industry, we need all of these people who are here today, but the government is here and needs to support and empower this ecosystem. Now, instead of just listing all of those initiatives or incentives or whatever we have in place, and that one can easily find them by searching on the internet, on the government sites, I will start by trying to answer this as follows. I think there are three components to this ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Three components that matter. It's the business sector, the tech sector is a huge part of that. We have the startup ecosystem, and then we have the research and innovation activity. These are three components that are communicating vessels, essentially, and we want them, we need them to grow together. Okay? If we want to have a healthy ecosystem, we need to make sure that we go all of these dimensions. One example that people often neglect, great startup ecosystems also invest in basic research. So that's just an example to understand what I'm trying to say here. So having said that, our job then is to make sure that, and this falls nicely from the previous panel, they talked about education and infrastructure and all of those things, and schooling. So we need to make sure that these three components are complemented by those elements that will make them grow. Talent, access to resources, that means funding, that means infrastructure, that means expertise, support structures. All of that is what we need to reinforce. Yes, we can do that with tax incentives. I need to say, and I think you said it as well, the groundwork is there. There is a very good package of incentives, both for companies and individuals, in terms of talent mobility I think Cyprus proves to be a place that can attract foreign talent. Over the past 2 years, high-tech companies now have approximately 32% of their employees are foreign nationals. Okay, that's just an indication. We can improve of those, the startup visas, the scientific visa, the blue card that is coming end of month, all of those incentives. But the question is not that in my mind. The question is, how do we focus on those areas where we have a competitive advantage and we can make a difference and we can push the ecosystem forward? And I think I'll stop here to see what the others have to contribute.
So I hear a big effort in coordinating, I think, policies across the piece, and as you said, but in a focused way, in areas where we really want to drive that advantage.
I think we have done a good job in pushing forward a number of initiatives. We are not yet focused enough, I think. Okay, so the tech sector is one area, but that's broad already. Okay, we can be more specific. I think we'll hear from Eli today. We heard it in the opening ceremony at the main stage that we are number 2 worldwide in gaming and number 3 in fintech, according to StartupBlink. That's huge. So we need to push those areas where we can make a difference without neglecting, of course, others.
Clear. Very good. Thank you. Now, and if I can come over to you now, but as an investor, and obviously you're hearing all the good things and what seems to be a real dedication we have with the government to sort of coordinate all the efforts. But as an investor, when you're looking at this, what are the clear non-negotiables? What are the things that you absolutely expect to see, and do you see these things in Cyprus?
Oh, it's a great question. First of all, I would like to say that Cyprus right now did a great job with attracting high qualified specialists. And Cyprus did a very big promise to these people that if you put a lot of effort, if you will learn the language, if you will relocate here, like truly relocate, not like nominally, then you can go further, and we are ready to accept you as a citizen. We are ready to provide you with our services, facilities, and everything. And now it's time to keep this promise. And if it will be done, then it will show that, hey, we can look to Cyprus, we can relocate here, we can move our families here, we can start real life here and build all around all that connected to this movement. And it will bring a lot of very positive developments, and it will be not just something separate from the local communities and from the island. It will be something very deeply integrated in a complex procedure. As an investor, for me, the first point I see, it's the most essential. It's how easy, how clear the procedures. If I understand the rules of the game, if I understand how to deal with government authorities, with the taxation, with the accountants and everything, okay, let's do. And that's why it's very important to have clear and understandable way that I can predict, and I can say, okay, I expect this and nothing will happen. The other way, I would not say that Cyprus had bad bank system. No, this bank system can exist for years and change nothing. Okay, they even will be profitable, everything gonna be okay. But right now, tons of money slipping out from local bank system because of very complex QIC procedures and high percentages of payment. And the first bank in the market, the first bank in Cyprus who will change their policy will have the biggest part of a pie and will have a jackpot. So we'll see how it changes in the future.
Okay, so you're giving some people some ideas also about how to make good money from, and I think when you have a process which is not broken but needs to be fixed, that's a good ground for innovators. So if I then go into Michalis as an innovator, as a serial entrepreneur, how have you found your journey, starting from Cyprus and then looking now beyond?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. It is a great pleasure to be speaking with you all today. The journey being a serial entrepreneur, and instead of sharing thoughts, maybe it's the good opportunity to build on what the minister, Nicodemos, if I may, has previously mentioned about competitive advantage. So what is our competitive advantage in Cyprus? And I remember a story, and maybe I can share with you today, that so many years ago, I think it was 2012, 2013, we were early founders, first-time founders with Argyris, and we've gone to a senior executive of a very well-known Cypriot company. It was an old-school guy, and we've gone there for advice. We said, we are building this startup, this technology venture. What do you think? He said to us, to our surprise, fantastic. And it is even greater that you're building this from Cyprus. And we were amazed to hear that at that point. And he explained to us that, listen, young folks, Cyprus is a very small market with all the characteristics of a very grown and mature market. We are in the European Union, Western characteristics, capitalistic characteristics. So you can build so many things here, you can test so many things here, and then find the right way to scale them in other markets, and there are a lot of markets with similar characteristics as Cyprus. We are talking about startup nation. What is our competitive advantage? Maybe we should perceive the country as a very good testing playground, as a very good innovation spot. Fantastic quality of life here. It is very nice to be working here, to do your family here. So we should allow ourselves to experiment more, to build more things, see what is working, close what is not working. And I can build to Anna's comments as well. I mean, if I also found it kind of challenging on my next venture, all the kind of processes and things like that to open my business and to operate it. I mean, if I could ask something today, could be possibly, we need to be able to open and close businesses in a day. In a day. And maybe the last one, closing a business, is even more important than the first one. Being an entrepreneur, being a startup founder means you need to be able to failing a lot, trying so many different things, failing and learning. And if we make it fast, I have an idea, I build something very, very fast, and I'm able to get a payment, an online payment from a customer, a real customer, the same day. This is so powerful. If things are not working, just close the business, move on to the next legal entity, okay? This is just some early thoughts from my perspective.
Fantastic. I think you helped us clarify quite a lot of things. And often, when we talk about Cyprus as a startup nation, people think that, it's about taking advantage of the local market, right, in the things that you innovate. But I think you said it very well. It can be a soundbox where people actually develop in a safer place, in an easier place. But that's where we need to build a competitive advantage of making things happen more easily. And we're giving a lot of work to do to the Deputy Minister, I'm sure. But Eli, now looking from the outside in and being able to compare, because I think that's a real advantage you bring, your ability to compare to other startup ecosystems. Can we dream of having this as a startup nation, or are we far away from it?
I think we are in a very good momentum. Basically, the momentum here is outstanding. You're the second, for the second consecutive year, the highest growth rate in Europe. So for all the entrepreneurs here that are wondering, should I leave or should I stay? I'm telling you, and I told a lot of entrepreneurs also that they should consider leaving when this is the case in other countries. When the momentum is so good, stay and bring your friends, because it's going to get a little bit harder a little bit later, but now is a very good time. Of course, we started from a relatively low point, so the growth rate is so impressive but it's going to get tougher as we move forward. In terms of government policies, Cyprus is cutting edge. I can tell you that if I have 5 governments that I'm impressed with in the world, Cyprus would be one of them, in terms of what you've done with very creative things such as tax incentives and with the non-dom and a lot of things. Many countries are losing and are just giving up. And Cyprus is saying, look, we're not necessarily in the best location to begin with 5 years ago, but since then there's been so much creativity on the government side, so I think that we can definitely pull it off. The things that are needed is a little bit more participation from the private sector. I'm talking about corporate innovation and all the big companies in Cyprus. They have to be a major engine of innovation. We can't only count on the government. And of course, the entrepreneurs themselves. The most important thing is the entrepreneurs, and it's all about the mindset. In terms of, one of the things that I like to think about is, would your parent want you to become a startup founder? In Israel, for example, USA, UK, if you become a startup founder, your mother and father are proud of you. If this is not the case here, and actually in most of the countries, then we have a social issue that has to be resolved. Once it's being resolved, we're now in a situation, because the mindset, once the mindset is corrected, you know, so Anna and Michael, they're already in this mindset, but it's a relatively unique mindset. We need more people to have a critical mass. In order to do that, we need to celebrate our ecosystem constantly. We need to fake it until we make it, in a way, as an ecosystem as well. Fake it until we make it, and just celebrate and be cheerful and get more and more people into this game. And yeah, there is nothing that can stop us. Small countries like Singapore and Israel have managed to become leaders of the ecosystem. Here, the business conditions are honestly, in some cases, better. So, yeah.
Fantastic, good. Now, I know we said there's not focus on individual specific policies, but nonetheless, right, policies are important, and certainly those that do attract the investment and the capitals. Can you tell us anything, maybe disclose as much as you can, on new policies that we should be expecting, or finalization of some of the announcements that were made about being able to encourage VC funds, Cyprus?
Yes. Let me first note that there's a common theme to what Anna and Michalis said, and I think the common theme is bureaucracy. We need to get rid of bureaucracy. And we fully understand that. Okay, that's clear to us. Our Minister of Interior, who was sitting here before me in the previous session, he mentioned the new business service center that is launching on the 26th. And that's part of the process of getting rid of bureaucracy. We're not going to get to same-day opening and closing of a company tomorrow, but we understand that we need to do that. And let me just say, since I touched on this point, that bureaucracy is not a technology problem, it's a process problem, first of all. Now, just noting that, and then the point about the banking sector, I hear that there is simplification coming to the KYC rules, so hopefully this would get much better. Now, in terms of funding, essentially, that's what you're touching on. That's one of the resources that we need to give to. We need to bring more access to in Cyprus for startups. Michalis represents one of the success stories, I think, because you mentioned 2012, 2013. That was a difficult time, first of all, for Cyprus, but that was a time when the mentality was not even there, Eli. Eli touched on the mentality. Now, we're starting the Cyprus Equity Fund. This is already up and running, 33 East. Let's not forget that the Research Innovation Foundation offers equity-free funding for the various stages, and some new programs are coming there. We are trying to engage the private sector more through that, through blended finance schemes as well. Let's not forget as well that when you are in Cyprus, you have access to the EU funding, and we are building structures like the Knowledge Transfer Office at the Research Innovation Foundation that will help you and guide you on how to get access to those funds, how to compete for those funds. That's a huge advantage of being in Europe, but also close to other high growth areas, Israel, the Middle East, Africa, and so on. Now, apart from that, our visit to the US, our visit to London next week, it's spearheaded by the president himself. He said so in his speech in the morning. Focus on bringing more support for the ecosystem as well. So you may have heard or you may have seen in the news that we are discussing with one of the leading innovation and startup platforms in the world, Plug and Play. So we are actually, we have deep dived into the discussions, and we are looking how to open or what format that will take actually, what format Plug and Play Center will take in Cyprus. That will provide support but also funding. So that's also one of the directions we are taking. So Eli mentioned it that the policies are there to attract angel investors as well, but I think the key, there's no place in the world where we have VC funding activity or other type of funding activity, investment activity, without growing the ecosystem at the same time. When the ecosystem grows, the funding will come. I said it in the morning, sort of as a joke. That's by the CEO of Plug and Play, Saeed Amidi. He said, when we go to a market, we invest a little money and then we pray a lot. And the value goes up. But they do that in markets where the ecosystem is mature. So I think we are reaching that stage right now, and that will help bring more funding as well.
Thank you, Nicodemos. And Anna, now if I can come back to you, and maybe just to follow up on this, what actions, extra actions could we take to communicate this maturity that we are already building to those people overseas that want to hear?
It's a good question, but first of all, investors are smart creatures. They heard rumors, they know success stories of other projects, and if Cyprus will move consistently, if Cyprus will show that, hey, we have this project successful and this one, and our procedures are clear, everything is predictable, okay, investors will heard about it, and of course, anyway, it's important to work on PR and manage brand, and it's a hard work for such specialists. But in Cyprus, I believe for investors, we already have a very good infrastructure, but I would really be very happy if the procedures would be faster for investment procedures, because right now we live in process when technologies move faster than ever, and startups have a very small gap to exist, to jump into the industry. And if startups need to wait for 3 months, 6 months for investment, if they agreed with investor and just need 6 months for procedure, they might lose the wave, they might lose the moment, and it's very dangerous in this ecosystem. That's why I believe the faster procedures, it's a very essential point. For example, a lot of investors attracted to Delaware because you can invest very easily with their instruments, and you can start a company very fast. You can communicate with the banks, not so easy, but anyway, it's attractive, and because they hear from each other about successful experience.
Clear. Mihaly, would you say that do we sit and wait for the investors to come here, or would you say that it's also good to go and look for them, as a startup founder elsewhere?
Speaking about investors and funding, maybe I have a controversial opinion, but I speak a lot with other founders, and I hear a lot that, or I have the sense better, they are expecting everything from investors and funding, and sometimes this works as an excuse as well, but there is no funding, I don't have money and things like that. I mean, we need to wake up on this matter. Globally right now, funding is very limited. At this specific era that we're living, founders should be very, very mindful about their cash flow, how they're funded, about their operating philosophy, not only expenses, okay? And we need to understand that a lot of things changed. Bootstrapping right now is in the game. We need to create more tangible results, more revenue before going out there and pursuing further funding. We need to make it until we make it, okay? And I'm not saying this as a negative thing. We founders need to push more. We need to be more competitive. We need to step up. I would like to ask Anna as well, how many startups are being funded by your organization or venture capital for all applications that you receive? What is the ratio? For every 1,000 applications, for every 10,000 applications, how many of them are funded? I'm just asking.
It's a very small percentage in reality because there are thousands and thousands of projects. And of course, even in our attention, not everyone who applied. And it's a common problem, you're right.
So my point is, you need to keep moving as a founder. You don't need to bet everything there. You need to be precise and make it happen. There is funding. It is very competitive, especially now.
And I think that also maybe links back to one of your points, Eli. I mean, how do you get sort of, let's say, younger people to really, approach this, recognize there's a lot of work to be done, there is risk to it, and with that risk of failure is one of the potential outcomes. How do you embed this in a culture that accepts that failure and learns from it?
Yeah, this is not something you can teach in school. This is something that you have to see your neighbor. I have two friends that have built a unicorn. The minute you have two friends that built a unicorn, immediately your friends are telling you, hey, look at them, like, why are you not doing the same thing? So in a way, psychology doesn't change by us telling people, please be better entrepreneurs. Psychology changes with celebration, achievements, a little bit of jealousy as well. We need people to be successful here. If people are successful here, then we can actually do this psychological change as well. In order to do it, we just need to double down on what works. What the Deputy Minister said, according to data, gaming works really well here. Fintech works really well here. Let's double down on those instead of thinking AI, defense tech, and deep tech, and all of. Let's really work on let them carry us forward to the next level, because we can't be a general ecosystem as well. And last word of advice is basically, we are in the middle between the Middle East and Europe and many other, and Africa and so on. Let's take the approach that worked. We are the fastest growing in the EU because we're not necessarily taking a new approach. A new approach is that the government is helping the entrepreneurs and giving you grants and so on and so on. So a lot of the business model in Europe is actually government support. Cyprus is very smart. It goes on business policies, on cutting-edge infrastructure. That's why we're successful. And I really want to advise all the entrepreneurs here in the crowd, don't wait for government money. That's the European model. That's something that has not worked historically. The USA, the UK, Israel, Singapore are not necessarily built on that. So we should just push forward. So yeah, thank you.
Very good. So I know we sort of caught up with all of our time. There are a couple of questions there. I'm just going to choose one because I think the rest have been answered more or less. And on this one, I would like to get sort of, if possible, everybody's just simple answer, simple view. Resources, people, yes? I mean, we need those people to work on, even on the startups, with the founders. We need that human resource. Can we get the people? Are we getting the right people? Are the policies we have enough? What more should we do? If I start with you.
Thank you. Yes, that would be one of my closing comments there. Our need to focus on talent. That's the one resource we need to have. That's what everybody has been asking us, from Silicon Valley companies to anyone we talk to. Do you have the resources? Do you have the talent? So there's two angles to that. One is having the policies to attract foreign talent. And as I said, the numbers speak for themselves. Yes, there are policies and you can do that. Okay, but you also need local talent. And that's a huge question. That's not an easy answer. That's a long-term strategy. Things are changing. People are moving away from this model of education and work, and that's it. People get in and out of jobs. So we need to move to micro-credentials. We need to bring horizontal types of educational reforms that train people to in AI, in sort of deep tech technologies. It's a shift that needs to happen in our education system in order to be able to match the needs of the industry with what the universities are producing, with what our schools are building. And there are three large-scale sort of projects currently running by the government to do exactly that, to map the needs with what is happening in the educational system. That's my comment.
Anna, anything to add on that?
I believe, first of all, it's a strong community. Building a strong community, it's very helpful for startups, especially when they're limited in time and stuff. If you have a big circle of friends and colleagues who could share their experience, help you to avoid some mistakes, share some stuff, or maybe give you some small part of their resources, it's a very helpful atmosphere that could help grow other startups and other projects. So it would be great if Cyprus would continue to develop strong community inside and manage a very good and visible brand outside.
And obviously festivals like this help, right? So
Definitely.
Mihaly?
Is it okay if I take another question there that I see on Slido? There is someone there asking what kind of support should founders actively build around them from day one? And it is particularly interesting. It was, I would consider, fundamental and success factor for us, the support system we had around us as early stage founders. And you should always try and build and maintain this kind of support system around you. And there is an obvious answer there. You need other experienced founders around you just to share their stories with you and guide you. And probably this is something that they're going to do for free and without any kind of ask. Just ask about it, okay? And later you need more people like your lawyers and things like that, but let's not go there for startups. And let's don't underestimate family as part of our support system. Young founders, probably they're bootstrapping, they're staying with their parents are supporting them. Let's not underestimate that this is as well your support system, good friends that you have. My wife is supporting me. I have 2 kids. She's taking care, and she is a busy professional, and I'm very appreciative about her. Her parents as well are supporting. These are things that as founders, you need to be very mindful and resourceful. Thank you.
So that is like Eli says, you need the parents to say, well done, go and set up a startup. Anything else to add, Eli?
I just think that the more successful we become, the easier it's going to be. People want to arrive to places that are successful. And just like San Francisco is super successful. Nobody cares that there are people injecting drugs in the street or that the life condition, the taxes are very high. Because success is the most attractive feature of a startup ecosystem. And that's why we should just promote, celebrate every success that we have here to create this flywheel that keeps on giving. And I think we're really on the right trajectory, so it looks good. Yeah.
Excellent. So promote and celebrate the success we have already. Thank you, everybody. And hopefully next year we'll be here again talking about these additional successes. So well done. Thanks.
Thank you.